I write the kind of music that I would want to listen to when I am feeling that way.
I'm Jay-Ak.
And I'm Shaw Core.
And this week, we're honored to welcome another super dope creator, film and TV composer, drummer, sound library developer, producer, and 1/7 of Tampa Bay's #1 hip-hop collective, Dylan Mixer, a.k.a. D-Mix. Welcome to Conversations with the Creator.
What's up, guys? What's going on?
Man, nothing much, bro. It's good to see you. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, you too. I guess we're just going to pretend we didn't have like 20 minutes of technical issues right before this exact moment.
Yeah, I'll cut that out.
Yeah.
But let's get into it and talk to us about how did you get into film and TV composition, and like what was your spark?
So when I was a kid, I was super interested in film itself. My whole family was musicians, and so I was kind of just predestined to become a musician, even though like I was obsessed with film and cinema and all of that. And so I actually started out making like short movies when I was a little kid. I would make like short movies with my little webcam on my AOL dial-up PC, and I started like doing the music for them. My brother taught me how to, use these softwares to be able to like create music. And it turned out to be my favorite part of the whole process, was like actually making the music. And I had already been drumming. I had been drumming for, years, since longer than I could remember. I was taught how to drum since I was like 5 years old or something crazy. And so like I was already like in the music ecosystem, but that's when I really started to like start composing and messing around with other instruments and whatnot. Nothing very good, obviously, but I was able to like marry the two passions, into sort of one, and I guess it wasn't really until like I saw there was a couple key movies that I saw when I was a kid where I was like, wait a minute, somebody actually does the music for these movies? Like that is a job? Like that's just something you can do, you know? Because before that, you don't think about it. You think the music in Star Wars just comes out of nowhere. It just like exists in the picture, You don't realize like a person did that. And so the movies that I saw were Road to Perdition, which was scored by Thomas Newman, amazing composer. I was probably too young to see that movie, but whatever. And I didn't realize it until I saw Finding Nemo, because it was the same composer, and I was like, this sounds like the music from Road to Perdition. Like it sounds like the same atmosphere, the same like vibe, And then I noticed like his name, and I was like, I don't know, it just like hit me. It was like, oh my god, that's a person, who did that. And so ever since, I was kind of like, it was a silly dream of mine to do that, But yeah.
What age are we talking, Dylan?
I was like, when I really opened up to it, I was maybe 10 or 11. When I started to realize that was something you could actually do. And, obviously it's a pipe dream. It's like a kid saying they want to be an astronaut or something. You don't ever think it's going to like actually happen. And then I did music in high school. I did music in college. And I kind of just like started to go for it around the time I was in college. I was at SBC along with you guys. And that became my major, because I was like, well, if I'm going to major in music, like, why not do exactly what I want to do,
Man, that's dope. That's awesome. And I'm just like, I'm wild at how young you were to hone in on the music in a film, like you say, because most of us, especially at that age, we're like fascinated by the action taking place on the screen. We know the music exists, but it's like you said, it's kind of an afterthought. So would you say like ever since then, when you watch a movie, that's kind of the main thing that catches your attention first, is the music in the movie, is the score?
I would say obviously a lot more than most. I think psychologically I try to keep the magic alive a little bit and not like overanalyze it. You know, like when I watch a movie, I just want to watch a movie. But if the music is just like stellar, I'm gonna notice it. I'm gonna notice it. And if they make interesting decisions, you know, and things I would never have thought of to do, you know, I'll point it out. I'll be like, that's interesting. You know, I'll tell my girlfriend, Caitlin, I'll be like, you know, I'll nerd about it for like 10 minutes or whatever. She'll be
Right.
like, shut the fuck up, like watch the movie, you know what I mean? And so like I guess my brain is always going in that aspect, yeah.
So just talking about that, like what kind of rabbit holes did you start to go down once you realized like, oh, you know, this composing for film thing is a real thing, and like what was that thought process like? Like did you start doing that? Was
Yeah.
that like a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after all of that, I started to look up more composers, you know, and it seemed like the big guy on the block was John Williams, you know, and so I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh my god, he did Star Wars, okay, and then I'm like just going down the list, and I'm like, oh my god, he did Harry Potter, holy shit, he did Jurassic Park, holy shit, you know what I mean? It's just like every single like major, giant, iconic thing from my childhood, you know, this guy did, um, and so like that also happened with Hans Zimmer. He's also the big guy on the block. You know, everyone, you know, talks about Hans Zimmer. And I'm looking through it. It's like, oh my God, he did Batman. He did Gladiator. He did, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I've seen all these before, but now I'm like thinking about it in a totally different light, you know, because I'm thinking about the person who like really came up with the emotion of the film, you know, and Gladiator was another one where like I noticed the music as a kid too, you know what I mean? And like I would listen to that soundtrack or whatever. And so once I put two and two together that that was a dude doing all that, and you know, I went off and watched all of his movies, and so, you know, obviously they became a huge inspiration for me.
What like are some of your influences that kind of like shapes your approach to going into composing for a film or TV?
My current influences, I mean, Thomas Newman has always been a huge influence because his music just doesn't sound. I was about to say it doesn't sound like anybody else's, but it honestly doesn't even sound like it came from Earth. Like it doesn't. Like you listen to it and you're just like immediately elsewhere, you know. And so he's a huge inspiration. And lately, in the past 10 years, Johan Johansson, the Icelandic composer, who did Sicario, Arrival, those kinds of movies. R.I.P. He died however many years back, which is sad, but huge inspiration. Max Richter, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, you know, who do Social Network, all the Pixar movies, and a ton of other stuff you probably haven't heard of. Um, say those are a big three. Johnny Greenwood, and so I guess like I lean towards like maybe the more, I don't want to say independent because like they work on big movies, but like they're not the household names, you know, like John Williams and Hans Zimmer are the household names. You could say those to somebody who isn't in the music industry and they'd be like, oh yeah, I know who that is, you know. Um, but I think these guys don't get nearly enough credit, you know, that they should.
You got a couple projects, right? That you scored Going Postal. That was fall of last year, 2025, and then what, Savage
Yeah.
of this year. So what was it like scoring those films, those projects?
Well, funnily enough, I actually did Savage before Going Postal, but that happens all the time. Like you'll work on something and then you won't hear about it for another 3 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's fun, a release, I guess, cool.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, we know how it is. Going Postal was a huge undertaking. It was the biggest project I'd ever done because it was a feature documentary. And when you score a documentary, it's almost always like wall to wall music. Like there's no breaks, you know, just watch any documentary. Like you won't be able to unhear it now, you know, like the music just doesn't stop because it's kind of driving the pace, you know, and making the whole thing interesting. And so that was a 2-hour and some change feature film, and I ended up writing something like 90 minutes of music for that movie in a matter of like 5 weeks, I think. And so, and it was also all over the place too. It was every single genre. I mean, they wanted punk rock, they wanted synthwave, they wanted orchestral, they wanted like all this different stuff, and it was a huge challenge. And then Savage, that was just like a playground for me. That was like my inner child being able to play with my toys, because it's just like this 90s early 2000s style like action romp, like the classic action hero sort of thing, and you're not supposed to take it too seriously, and like I can just score way over the top for it. And so I had a blast doing that. Honestly, that one came about really, really fast. But yeah,
I got another question as you was talking. And so for those that may be listening or watching the podcast and may have some type of interest in being a film composer, can you walk us through briefly what the actual process is like, as far as like, so are you given the footage, and how much, if so, like, are they like 100% entrusted in you to put the films in, like put the music in, or are you getting cues for certain spots? What's the process actually like?
Yeah. So it varies. Sometimes I will be talking to the director at the script stage. So they'll send me the script and I'll read it. And I might even start writing music at that stage, just writing like general themes and kind of just vibing, like trying to get like the vibe and the aesthetic of the score. Other times, I get the film and it's already done basically, and like my part is the missing piece, or post-production is the missing piece. And so from that point, I watch the film. That's literally the first thing I do. I watch it front to back. I'm not even really thinking about music yet, because sometimes they'll have temp music, what do you call temp music in it? Usually just like stock stuff or stuff from other soundtracks that they drag into it. So like placeholder stuff. And so I'll watch it through, and sort of like get the vibe. And then I'll watch it through a second time. And that's when like I intentionally activate my brain and it starts going, and it's like, okay, so like it could enter here, it could exit here, I think like this would be good if like a drone started here and then it built up, and like that kind of stuff. And I start placing like markers, in my DAW. And those markers become, the outlines of the cues, basically, and then from there, I go in and I start filling in music.
And are you doing like sound design too, or is that for someone else? Like if they need to hear, some heels clicking across the floor, are you doing that kind of stuff too?
It depends on what I'm contracted for. That is another one of my skills, and that's another one of the things that I do. But it is a separate job typically. With lower budget stuff, sometimes the sound designer will be the composer and vice versa. It'll just be one person. But on anything like decently budget, it should really be separate people doing those two things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what's like a project that you actually had to do that on?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, because I actually have done a few short films. Shout out my homie Dominic Smith, Tampa filmmaker. He has gotten me almost every bit of where I am, because he like gave me a chance back in 2015 and hired me on some films. But anyway, I did a short with him not too long ago where I did both. And my process was kind of like mixing the dialogue and everything first, adding in the sound design and the Foley and anything else that needs to be there, second, and then doing the music last, because selfishly, I want like a completed thing for me to score to,
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
But yeah, there's been a few projects where I've done that.
So talk to us about like your collaborations, like in other spaces. You got a bunch of collaborations going on that of course, have to do with like syncing and film and stuff like that. But like other spaces, like you got a sample library, I heard.
Yeah. I've delved into sample library making. So just creating my own instruments, basically. Um, I feel like this phase of my life I'm in, if I don't have the tool, I'm going to just make it myself, or I'm going to try to make it myself,
I love that.
and that is so liberating. Like, that is so
Right.
cool. And I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I use AI for it, but the thing about like coding is you still have to know how to do it. You still have to train yourself how to do it. Like, AI can't just like code an entire instrument for you, because there's been so many like speed bumps along the way where like if I didn't know what I was doing like a little bit, I would never have gotten out of that issue. But yeah, so I've been making my own instruments. I released a free one last year to kind of just like say what up, this is what I'm doing now, and then I sampled a omnichord, which I don't know, you guys can see back here. It's that little like beige thing against the wall.
Yeah.
So that's a 1980s synthesizer. And so I sampled that, turned that into an instrument, and I just released my newest one, my biggest one, a few months back, called Tape Filth Judgment Day, which is the biggest thing that I've done so far. And I'm working on my next one currently too.
Before we move on, let's go a little deeper into that right there. So when you're creating these instruments and these sounds, how much of it is experimental, and how much of it is you kind of already know in your head what you want, and now you got to go and actually create that? You know what I mean? Like you hear a sound in your head, it's like, oh man, if I put this and that, which is still experimental, but I'm just wondering, is it ever like where you kind of know what you want and then you go to try to do it, or sometimes you just hitting buttons and something cool comes out of that?
I think like if somebody tells you it's not just hitting buttons and hoping that it sounds cool, like they're probably lying to you a little bit, at least on some level. Like that's just how anything music is. That's what we're doing. We're just hitting buttons and like hoping it sounds cool. But no, to like actually answer your question, what I found is the best process is to not create the sounds from like a single idea, but more so like I'm creating the playground for me to create the sounds in. So like I'm not creating the sounds, I'm creating the playground. So like after like all the coding and all the boring stuff, I now have this like software, this like instrument, this blank canvas basically, where I can like load different samples and stuff like that into it, and then I use that to create patches and like cool textures and synth sounds and whatnot. That's something that I shifted gears to on this last one that I started doing, that I took a different approach on it, because I wanted to have just like full creativity over what the patches are going to sound like, basically. So like I finished the GUI, the interface of the instrument first. I totally finished that first. Like all the scripting and everything is done. Basically, all I have to do is just load in sounds and samples and mash them together and mangle them and turn them into something neat,
Staying like in the creative collaboration space, especially since we're talking about synths and electronics, you have a group that you do electronic music with. Tell us more about how you actually got together and started actually doing that.
Yeah. So you're talking about Fare Thee Well.
That's the one.
Yeah. So that's my electronic like synth pop project. And basically like how that came about is just me and Kirsten are really good friends, and she's an amazing musician. And I would always like send my tracks to her and be like, I think this would sound good with vocals. Like, could you just record like a random vocal take over it and see like if it sounds good, And then she would end up doing the craziest like vocal take with layers and just like, perfect production or whatever, and then like send it back to me, and I'm like, oh my, like it's a full ass song now, And so it kind of just evolved from there, especially around COVID when like we didn't really have much to do. I wasn't, teaching as much. I wasn't getting as much work in the film industry. And we were like, do we want to like actually try to release something? Like, I know we're just kind of dicking around and making cool stuff, but I think it'd be cool if we actually like release the EP, And so I feel like that's the most organic way it could come about,
So there's an elephant in the room. I heard that you are a drummer in this sort of hip hop / jazz / fusion / rock / band.
I don't know anything about that. I don't want to talk about that.
And being a drummer in that band also gives you a sort of creative outlet. How is that creative outlet different from like what you get out of scoring?
Oh my God, that's a totally different side of my brain that I need. The creation side and the performance side, like, just feel like a completely different persona to me, and they fulfill totally different needs. And it's like when I'm creating a lot and I'm using my creative side, like I get the performance itch. Like I really, really want to perform, and vice versa. Like when I'm performing a lot, I get the creative itch, and I feel like at heart, I mean, I'm still a performer, I played drums in, high school marching band, and I've played in bands, rock bands, pop punk bands, all that stuff, pretty much my whole life. And so like I need that, I need to be able to be in a room with other humans making music, not thinking about whether it's going to be a good song or thinking about the songwriting process or anything, but just like jamming and like feeding off each other's energy. And not to mention, I like playing drums. My profession, film composing, doesn't really lend itself to me playing drums that much, unfortunately, and so I need an outlet for that kind of thing. And that is something I desperately miss. I know you guys are mad at me.
No, you're an excellent drummer, man. And we made some beautiful music together. And, I feel like at some point we're going to get back to doing that. But that was an interesting take and explanation, how it's like two different sides of your brain and it's fulfilling two different things. But like, sounds like you equally love them and things of that nature. Because I was going to ask basically the same question, like, how are they alike and how are they different?
I guess the way I would describe it is when I'm drumming for a band, say with you guys, the composing happens first, because like when I'm writing a drum part in my head, even if I'm just like making it up on the fly and I'm just jamming and it just happens like instantaneous, that's still composing in a way, but eventually that work is done, like once I've solidified it and I know what the song is and, we agree on the drum part, like that work is done. And then I get to just like have fun with it and then play it over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Like I get to do the fun part. I would say if I had to pick something I like the least about scoring is I never get to play it. I might play it in with my MIDI keyboard. I might play in the string parts. I'll play in the brass parts, that kind of thing, but like after that is done, there's no more, I work on the piece and then it's over. And you also just don't get the reaction from like the crowd, And so, I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot, actually, because I want to start combining the worlds a little bit and like eventually somehow do some kind of live performance with like one of my pieces, and like perform something cinematic or, even something like electronic, I think would be cool. But that is like a part of my life that I desperately miss, is performing in front of people, and actually being able to play the thing that I wrote.
In your head, what is drumming and playing music live giving you that composing does not give you? Just like finalize it for me.
It's, oh man, it's the physical, you know, it's the instant connection with the audience or the people, the instant collaboration, or maybe just a collaboration in general, honestly. Film composing is a very solo act. It doesn't always have to be. I mean, you can collaborate with other composers and be sort of a group think, but it's not the same as being in a room with other musicians and like playing together, you know, because you're reacting instantly off each other, you know what I mean? And like your brain is just like working so fast. Yeah, exactly.
That energy that you bouncing off each other. I feel you.
And it's fun. It's joyous. It's like what you think music is going to be when you're a kid. You know what I mean? I think that's why so many people hang on to, you know, playing in bands and being in music, even when things might not be like working out for them later in life, because like it's fun. Like that's what they wanted to do as a kid, is like speaking literally to their inner kid, you know?
Yeah.
I know from following you on Facebook, you can get a little spicy sometimes about what's currently going on in our sometimes political atmosphere, sometimes global. Does that have any influence on what type of music you make?
Absolutely. It's a big inspiration actually, and I've released pieces that were directly inspired from world events. I might not, you know, spell it out and tell people like what it's about, you know, but a lot of it was definitely impacted around the climate crisis, you know, movement back when people actually cared about that. Now we have like other issues. We can't even focus on that anymore, which sucks. You know, and Greta Thunberg was first becoming popular. I wrote a piece called Fire, which was it used like one of her quotes. I can't remember the exact quote. I think it's like, treat your world as if your house were on fire, because it is, you know. And I wrote a whole piece based off that essentially, and released that. And then just recently, over the past year, the No Kings protests, you know, and the big beautiful bill, I released a track. I can't remember what I called it, but I used the Charlie Chaplin speech, you know, from the Great Dictator, essentially. I used his direct audio from that and just built an entire piece around that, you know, just because that is what I was feeling in the moment. And if you listen to it, it feels like angry, you know, angry, enraged, but like confident and, you know, wanting to stand up, you know, wanting to start a revolution, basically. And so that was the last time I released something kind of politically charged, and it probably won't be the last.
So Jay mentioned worldview. How are you, if you have personal crap going on in your life, do you feel like you're able to channel that and throw it into your music, or is it too much of a distraction as far as like personal stuff, and it's like, okay, I might need a break because it's too distracting or whatever? Or are you able to channel that and get inspired by that and create music?
I definitely channel it. It's definitely a way for me to process my emotions and process things that are happening. No, I mean, it's always been kind of my escape, you know, and I might not be like directly translating the emotions that I'm feeling like into the music. A lot of the times I'll write music that makes me feel better. You know,
so it becomes therapy.
Yeah, it becomes exactly. Yeah. You know, if I'm feeling depressed and I'm going through a rough time, I might write a depressing piece. I might write a really like cheerful and happy piece, and something chill, and because like I write the kind of music that I would want to listen to when I am feeling that way. I mean, I like, not to get dark, but I mean, music kind of saved my life quite a few times in my life, you know, from negative thought spirals and, suicidal thoughts, like that kind of thing. And there's, been like many times where like a certain song or a certain piece of music would snap me out of that, and that just gave me even more of a drive to like keep doing what I'm doing, because if I could do that for at least even just one person, then I would feel really, really good about what I'm doing.
That's amazing, bro. And I thought that was an interesting question because, as creatives, we're inspired by different things, and we may get uninspired by different things. And so I was just curious to see if you, and I kind of felt that, but I was like, well, let me ask him. I don't want to assume anything, but I felt that you probably could channel that into your music.
It's the tortured artist stereotype. I mean,
yeah.
And it kind of sucks because like you don't want to have to be suicidal or depressed
Right.
in order to make good music. You hope that the inspiration just like comes, but I mean, I think that's the case for a lot of people, and I think that's why the 27 Club exists, why so many great artists, take their life or their life ends around that time. And I think that's also why your favorite artist might come out with some stuff that you don't really like that much, because like they might be in a different place in their life. They might be, they might have like gotten themselves out of the shit. You know what I mean? Like everything's going well, but they still want to make music. And it's like, oh, well, it's not the same,
Right.
For one, I think it's just the way it is, but I also think it's, toxic to expect people to like always be going through something in order to be able to make good music, And so I hope that people are able to find therapy and be in good mental health and still make good music,
So what is next for Dylan Mixer?
What is next? I got some stuff coming up this year. There's a project that I'm really excited about. It's a film, but like I'm not officially signed on it yet. So I want to talk about it, but I can't. And also, even if I did, I feel like it would jinx it and it would just disappear and fly away, and either blow up or they would find somebody else. I don't know,
Can you give me a hint? Is it what we talked about in Atlanta?
It is what we talked about.
Oh, okay.
Me and my buddy Billy, who is
Gotcha.
the son of Billy Mays. Me and him are working on something.
Something.
Shout out to my guy Billy Mays.
Oh, he's such a good dude. We're making an album actually, because he has his like post rock project Infinite Third, and it's always been solo. He's never like worked with anybody else on an album before, but now I'm producing him basically, and so we're doing live drums on it, and it's going to be a little bit heavier than his usual stuff, and like I'm filling it with all these nice production tricks, and no, it's going really well. So we're starting with an EP, and that'll be out in a month or two actually, and then we're gonna make an album. Yeah.
Before we close out, any words of wisdom that you can provide to our audience? What would be a good thing to tell them if they wanted to start on the path that you are going down now?
And before you answer that, to add to Jay's question, specifically, in addition to that, having that bravery to move away from what you're used to.
My advice basically is diversify. Do a lot. If you're into composing, don't just do composing. Be an artist first. The composing comes later. But like if you are good at music, you can do many things. You can teach, you can perform, you can, do what I'm doing and, work on music tools, and have lots of separate side incomes. Because the reality is, like, you're not going to make a living with just composing, and most composers don't, until they reach a certain tier. you know, and the ones who do make it work is because they're doing lots of different things. But, you know, that's not to say like you have to be stuck working a day job for the rest of your life. You know, you don't have to. You know, if you really want to do music with your life, then do it in many forms. You know, don't just have blinders on, you know, and like stay on like one path, and also just be open, you know, be open to like whatever comes your way, you know. Sometimes I get offers to do things that aren't like necessarily in my field, but they lead to so many other sweet things that I would never have guessed that I would see myself doing, you know. And so I hope that answers that portion. And also, I mean, I moved to Atlanta because, I mean, there was personal reasons. I mean, I grew up in Florida, and it was just time for me to go out and, you know, try something else. But yeah, I mean, the other 50% of it is that Atlanta is the Hollywood of the South, you know. And but what I've realized since I've gone here is, I mean, everything I could have done as far as networking and getting jobs, I mean, I really could have done from St. Pete. I could have done from Tampa. And so maybe don't uproot your whole life and move to LA or something, just because you think that you'll, you know, get an in to the field. I mean, maybe you'll have a 20% more chance, you know, and that's totally reasonable. But you can do most of the work you need to do from home, right where you're sitting, basically. Just, you know, just reach out and make relationships and make connections, you know, and talk to people. And
I can attest to that part too, about branching out and trying different things within, you know, like you say, maybe what you do, like little side things. Like, you know, I started getting into sync and writing in a genre that I don't personally perform in.
Yeah.
But I'm like, try something new. You might surprise yourself.
Yeah. I mean, don't give up. And honestly, just go 2 feet in, you know. That's what I had to do once I like ripped out the safety net.
Yeah.
You know, if you're, you know, working a job and you're comfy in this job, you know, then music probably won't be the full-time thing until you just like flip a switch and you like decide to. I have a buddy who like always tells this story whenever we teach together, whenever we teach like percussion together, and I don't even know if it's true, honestly. It might even be like totally fake, but the story is about Tony Hawk and the way that Tony Hawk became a pro skater, like literally became a professional. He was at a skating competition, and when he signed up and he signed his name, he just put a check next to pro. That's all he did.
Wow.
Like he was a amateur, independent, whatever before that, and all he did was he just decided to, you know, like I am a pro now, you know, and so that's something I kind of live by too.
Yo, D-Mix, man, it was good to finally get you here and do this with you. We got to do this again, especially when you're going to drop that, you know, that hidden gem that you were just talking about a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah,
man.
We'll bring you back because we're going to put that into the universe, and we're going to make that happen. That's going to happen for you. So with that, where can everybody find you and connect with you and, you know, go support your work and things like that?
Yeah. You can visit my website, dylanmixermusic.com, Instagram, at dmix.music. And, you know, I'm Spotify, Apple Music under just my name, Dylan Mixer. And, you know, want to check out my synth projects, Fare Thee Well. You know, we're on streaming and all of that. And so I also got like a very specific name. So like if you just Google my name, like I'm very fortunate that my stuff will come up the first time. So you can also just do that. Yeah.
I'm Jayak.
And I'm Shaw Core.
And this has been another dope conversation.